Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are. I'm just going to give a little brief introduction while we're waiting for the rest for more attendees to come in before we get started. So for those who haven't been with our webinar series before, I'm Shira Graubart. My pronouns are she/her. I am president of Girl Up Edinburgh, and I want to welcome you all to what I think is our sixth session of Girl Up Edinburgh's Exploring COVID-19's Intersectional Impact on Women and Girls webinar series. Today, we are so incredibly honored to be speaking with these amazing women, Vanita Prabhu, Michelle David, and Sheila Cannell, about Scottish Love in Action, Voice for Girls, and about the consequences. So before we kind of enter into the session, I just want to go through some housekeeping tips, housekeeping rules. So our wonderful translator Violetta is going to be doing live Spanish translations in a Google Doc if that's helpful for anyone. And so Marina will be sending that in the group chat. And just some guidelines. So Girl Up will not tolerate any and all forms of hate, discrimination, or microaggressions. If you are engaging in this event in an inappropriate manner, then you will be kicked out of the event. Please mute yourself on arrival and remain muted unless told so. That said, we still want to hear from you. So please, this is an interactive discussion. So use the chat feature to engage with panelists, ask questions, share your experience, tell us where you're from and where you are right now. And questions, please send any of your questions. You know, that's what we're really all here for, to educate ourselves, to learn, and to share our experiences. Just another reminder that this event is recorded. Feel free to show your feel, but mostly please show the moderator, speakers, and translator your utmost compassion and patience. We're all transitioning to this virtual world together. So with that, I think we will begin, and I'm going to leave it to you all.
Thank you, Shira. That was wonderful. Let me introduce myself. I am Vanita Prabhu and I head operations at Voice for Girls. And I've been working in the development sector for more than 12 years now. And my work has been mostly on research, program implementation, monitoring and evaluation. And I strongly believe that if young girls and women are given information and knowledge, they'll be able to make better choices in life and shape their futures as well. And through the work of Voice for Girls, I would like to showcase that feminist realities exist, and all that it takes is giving them that right information and supporting them to make it happen. And now I would request the other panelists, Sheila and Michelle, to introduce about themselves.
Thanks, Vanita. I'm Michelle Davitt, and I am Chief Executive of Scottish Love in Action, which is a very small charity based in Edinburgh in Scotland. And I say very small because we have only 3 members of paid staff. We also have lots and lots of volunteers who work with us, so that's one of the ways that we're able to do the work that we do. We currently work with 2 grassroots projects in India, that is Voice for Girls, and we're lucky enough to have Vanita with us today. And we work with another project called the Asrita Rainbow Home, which is one of the Rainbow Homes programme, and there are a number of rainbow homes across India. I will tell you a little bit more as we go through the webinar about those projects. So we raise funds for those projects in Scotland, and we partner quite closely with them. And we have, for the last 3-4 years, very much enjoyed working with those projects, and we find both Rainbow Homes and Voice for Girls really inspirational, and we think the work that they're doing is very much worth sharing, so that's why we're here with them today.
And I would just add to that, I'm Sheila Cannell, and I'm a trustee for Scottish Love in Action. And you see from my biography that I used to be a librarian, so this is a complete swerve in what I'm doing. When I retired, I became involved with Scottish Love in Action and led the project to find the projects that we now support, Voice for Girls and Rainbow Homes. I, like Michelle, I find the organizations, the NGOs we work with in India are inspirational, and at the moment are being particularly creative in how they're addressing the issues to do with COVID, which in India are really very difficult indeed. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about what Vanita is going to say.
Thank you, Sheila. I would like to present about the work of Voice, what we do at Voice for Girls. And we've been working from 2012, and our organization started working with the government departments to understand what are the challenges that the adolescent girls have been going through and how we could support further. And that's how the work of Voice for Girls started in 2012. And even before I could talk to you about the impact of COVID on adolescent girls, I would like to take you through the current scenario of the adolescent girls in India. What sort of challenges do they face in their during their adolescence? In India, I would say adolescence is quite difficult because there are too many expectations around around the age, and there are girls who are transitioning the period from a girl to a womanhood. So there is a lot of social and cultural expectation coming for these girls, and these girls do face a lot of gender discrimination within their home in terms of access to resources at home itself, nutritious food that is available to them. So the preference is always towards a male child. Given the scenario at the household level, this further complicates when we look at the community level. The dropout rates in the schools are quite high when it comes to secondary education, because they're often forced to get married at a very early age and take up the responsibilities of the household chores and families, make their own families. And this is also seen with a lot of young girls, adolescent girls, having a lot of teenage pregnancies and also taking up motherhood at a very early age, and resulting in anemia and malnourishment to the children that they are born with. So given this space, we realize that Voice for Girls realizes that it becomes very essential and critical that we give these girls the knowledge about what is happening to their bodies, what changes are happening to them, and what sort of decisions are being made around themselves, or whether it is related to education, whether it is related to health, and how it is affecting them in a long term. And this certainly has a long term economic impact on them as well. And given in this space, Voice for Girls believes that if you give them the right tools and information, they can break the cycle of poverty, gender inequality that exists in the community, and go forward. uh, and I would like to share a small video about Voice for Girls, what we do, and how our programs are being implemented in India. Sorry, I think there was some technical error. Let me play this around. I'm sorry, I think there was a technical problem in playing this video.
The video I've sent in the chat, so
In the chat, so we would request you to go through that. Sorry for the technical issue that had come up. Uh, so moving forward, Shira, are you able to see my screen? Is this visible? Okay.
Yeah.
So in short, to talk about what we do as Voice for Girls is we organize activity-based camps for adolescent girls. And we believe that by giving this information, the girls are able to negotiate for themselves
break the cycles of poverty, pursue higher education, and delay the age of marriage. And we do it using our Her Voice module, which is a flagship program of Voice for Girls. And I think this video would give you more information about what we do at Voice for Girls. And the one you see on the right on the picture is Anusha Bharadwaj, and she's the one who's leading the organization. And going to the situation of girls and women in India, we see that there is this COVID pandemic has created a lot of impact disproportionately on women and girls in India. The care burden, in addition to sorry, Shira, there was some issue with this. But I would like to share that under the lockdown, the domestic violence cases against extremely high in India, and cybercrimes against women have also spiked. Women are disproportionately given the burdens of childcare and household work, and women workers are facing this highly disproportionate number of job cuts as well when compared to men. And when we look at this COVID pandemic on women, we could see that the burden of household work has increased for them within their families. We know that children are off from school, and they have to be homeschooled, fed, and entertained. And this has also led to also saying that the elderly in the house are specifically at a higher risk, and they need to be attended with greater care. In India, we could see that the daily lives of these middle class women are again dependent on service providers like maids, drivers, or even small vendors who provide essential goods and services at their doorsteps. And now, because of this COVID pandemic, we could see that the entire apparatus has been disrupted. And with the part-time help is now not available, considering they are assumed to be the people at more high risk who can bring in COVID into the household level. So given all of these constraints, the household burden on the women have increased to a large extent, and women are juggling both jobs as well as household care, and the entire family is dependent on them. And we could see that the children take care of their the women also are unable to manage this double burden on them. And we could see that there has been a lot of women leaving the job sector as well. During this COVID, there has been a lot of job cuts, and this impact has been higher on the women, which means that there is a decline in the labor workforce participation rates as well, which was already lower, which was only 29% in the beginning in 2017-19, and now it is going to go even further. The rates are going to go further low. Given this household burden, as well as job cuts and unavailable and lack of access, restriction to mobility, women also have also come up to say that they have facing domestic violence, and the rates have doubled in India during this pandemic. We could see that as it is, domestic violence has been a serious concern all across the world. Specifically in India, we could see that 1 in 3 women face sexual and physical violence at home. And given this pandemic, now imagine the women have to live in their abusive households, who now are in the pandemic and are in the lockdown and are forced to live 24 hours in a day under the same roof with their abusers. And this is what is exactly happening. They are unable to report, their voices are unheard, and they feel very much trapped inside. And it's across the India, you could also see that there are only 43% of women who have access to mobile phones, which worsens the situation even further, because they are not in a condition to make any phone calls or seek help. And you could also imagine the situation of a rural parts of India, where women do not have, where the literacy rates are extremely low, and they do not even have access to mobile or email, and they cannot write even emails or even letters seeking for help from others. So this COVID has set back women and girls at large in India to in a countless ways, and this crisis has, I would say, has reversed the progress that we have made for 20 years now. Sheila, do you want to add about how COVID has impacted women in UK and how it is different from India and UK?
Can't hear you, Sheila. Sheila, you're still on mute.
I think that what you are saying is very much worse in India than it is in the UK, but many of the issues that you're talking about are also prevalent in the UK, and I guess actually across the world. But I think that in India, because I think in India, it may be that because people were already in poverty, in greater poverty, what has actually happened is that the situation has gone back further than in some other countries. It's the reversal of the progress that's been made that I think is very significant. I don't know whether Michelle has got anything.
Yeah, I can speak to that a bit more. I'd also just like to praise today's webinar and highlight that we, Scottish Love in Action, are very keen, and as is happening, that Vinita and Voice for Girls speak to their experience, that we don't speak for them. They are there in India, they're telling us about what things are like for them, and Vinita will tell us a bit more about what it's like for the girls that Voice for Girls work with. But just to feed in some stuff that I've been reading and hearing about recently and some of my thoughts on this, if that would be useful, I'll send a link to Girl Up to share afterwards if it's useful, of some of the research sources that we've been looking at. What struck me throughout COVID, initially I think it was the similarities to the issues being faced by women and by people around the world. And more recently, I think it's actually some of the stuff Benita and Sheila have touched on around the differences, actually. And I'm just going to share with you some of the things that have struck me recently. I've been reading through some research that's been compiled by one of our volunteers. And I think it's some of the things that are different, or as Sheila had said, that are more serious. The severity in India is greater. So from The Diplomat, which is an online international current affairs magazine, one of the things that just struck me was that they'd mentioned when lockdown happened that the government in India had to be reminded that menstrual products are essential items. Okay, great, thanks for that. They are pretty essential, as we all know. Something else that article had mentioned was, and again, Vinita's touched on some of this, but women being threatened by their husbands and families with being kicked out of their home if they become ill. So as we know, domestic violence has been on the increase and is a greater issue across the world, including in the UK, because families are in a pressure cooker, they're having to spend more time together, people are losing their jobs, there's a lot of different stresses. But that did particularly strike me in that article that was referring to India, that women might be threatened with actually losing their home if they become ill, which really is to contemplate that is to contemplate a nightmare. Al Jazeera had mentioned again in relation to intimate partner violence that lockdown cut women off from their support networks, and that's something that Voice for Girls have been telling us about their girls as well, that actually schools for younger girls were their safe spaces in India, and they have lost those now. There was something else that really struck me that isn't an issue in the same way in the UK in relation to intimate partner violence, and it was an idea, and again, obviously our colleagues in India could speak to this in more detail if it was relevant, but the idea that girls or women almost belong to someone else's household, you know, kind of almost from birth, because they're going to join someone else's household when they marry, and that is playing into issues around intimate partner violence. And that was something that is beyond our experience here, I think, that really struck me. a lot of stuff as well around jobs in the labour market. 80% of Indian women are working in the informal economy, so that's the sector that COVID has had the worst impact on. Financial dependency increases vulnerability, obviously. So it is, as Sheila was referring to, things worsening or being reversed, advances that India has made potentially being reversed. From Feminism in India, which is an online intersectional feminism platform, they were talking about the fact that women do the least secure, most informal, unskilled jobs. And something that they've mentioned, and this was mentioned throughout the research I've read, is looking to previous pandemics and how they've impacted, particularly in other developing countries. And they were saying if there are lessons learned from the previous pandemics and public health crises, it is that women's economic independence and autonomy will bear the silent brunt. And I think that's a key thing. It's the silent brunt. And part of what Voice for Girls has been doing since its inception is to give voice to people who are forced to be silent. Gendered responsibilities are amplified during health crises. The hardest hit sectors are hospitality, retail and aviation. These are also obviously, again, worldwide, often the biggest employers of women. There was also an article from the BBC about housework and particularly how it is an issue in India. Now, again, across the UK and across the world, women have been taking on more of a burden on childcare and housework. But what I was struck by here was, again, a difference that in India, you know, homes don't have washing machines, vacuum cleaners, dishwashers, etc. in the same way. You're talking about an actual physical burden. Also, you may have more children and you're more likely to have elderly members of the family living with you, as Benita had mentioned. So you have a literal, not before you even get into the mental burden, a literal physical burden that these women are carrying. And as Benita had mentioned, the fact that people with a wee bit more money perhaps were more likely to have domestic help, partly help to hide inequalities. I'm going to draw this to a close now, but there were some other issues that were mentioned that also struck me around casteism. So social distancing and physical distancing, and how that's actually, again, particularly specifically to India, that actually, and again, this was mentioned in the UK, we should have talked about physical distancing. When you talk about social distancing, people are socially distanced already. That's what social exclusion is. So I think we should be more careful about some of the ways we talk about these things. And also the UNICEF report, ROSA report on children in poverty, very starkly highlights some of the stuff Sheila had mentioned. COVID could push an additional 120 million children over the poverty line in 6 months in India. That's the worst case scenario, but it is obviously a possibility. I'm just going to leave that there. I just wanted to highlight some of those background issues.
Thank you, Michelle. I think one point that I have missed about while talking about the situation of women, while accessing healthcare services, safety has been an highest concern, and number of cases have been reported of sexual abuse happening at the COVID clinics itself, where they have gone to access the healthcare services. So you can imagine the seriousness of the sexual abuse that's happening not just at home but also happening in their own communities, where they are not able to even afford basic services in India. And moving ahead, given this backdrop, and I think there were organizations, lot of organizations which were talking about women and how the COVID pandemic was affecting women at large, and we at Voice for Girls were worried about our adolescent girls and boys, because our primary contact was with the schools, and with this schools being shut down due to the pandemic, we lost touch with our participants, and we were really worried about our adolescents. So this is where we started our campaign called Avaz. Avaz, which means the voices from the ground, wherein we wanted to interact with our adolescent girls and boys, understand what are their challenges that they have, and share their experiences as well. And this and we had spoken to around 544 adolescent girls and 256 adolescent boys and 159 young women across different districts of Telangana. This is very specific to Telangana, but most of the issues that have been highlighted by Voice for Girls in various forums have been acknowledged by other organizations which are working across different states of India as well. um, but that given this, I would also like to ask from the previous experience that we shared about the impact of COVID on the women, does the audience have any questions? If you have any questions, please put it on the chat box. We would love to answer it after the session ends. And given this, when we reached out to our adolescent girls and boys, we have realized that there were a lot of challenges. One, we didn't wanted to make them feel that we were wanting to know what challenges they face. So we were sort of figuring out with them, do you know, are you aware about this COVID pandemic? You know what is happening at your village? And that was the conversation we started having with our adolescent girls and boys. And it was quite relevant that these girls and boys were able to observe that the COVID practices, where we call in about physical distancing, was not being practiced in their villages, because it was quite impossible for them to practice it because they're expected to go to work. And most of our populations that we work with are the populations from below poverty line, which means most of their parents are either daily wage laborers or agriculture farmers, and most of their income is dependent, and 70% of them are from the rural backgrounds. And when we looked at what were the consequences of this, the school being shut down, them not having access to educational materials, not having access to people whom they could talk to, we categorized them into four categories. What was the socioeconomic consequence of it? What were the implications on their education, on health, and as well as when it came to health, we specifically looked at sexual reproductive health of girls and also about mental health of both girls and boys as well. And we could see from the conversations that we had with adolescents, we could see that they were quite anxious and very emotional that the parents have already lost their livelihoods. There is no income to the family, and how are they going to survive, and what is going to happen to the debts, and the entire conversation about the finances related to home is happening with among the parents. And they see that they were quite stressed out that the families were not able to come out of that situation, and they were and due to the COVID situation, agriculture time, it was a harvesting time when they wanted a lot of laborers, they couldn't find laborers at all. And that's when they started taking their own children to work. And they and the girls and the boys who were at home started to started to take up work in their farms and supporting their parents. But they were really worried if they are really going to go back to school later, because now there is a burden and an expectation from the parents as well to take the family care, which was earlier not there. And given that situation, loss of financial resources, yes, it had an effect on the food to the family. There have been instances where girls and boys have cited that they were not able to even afford to have 2 meals a day. So they were burdened, and they most often they had to just skip their wait for the next day meal for somebody to help them, who can help them with the relief work. So this has been and I think there was a lot of emotional stress on the boys and the girls as well, because most of their parents were migrant laborers, and they were able to they were able to they were away from their parents, and they did not know what was happening to them. And considering lack of mobile phones or access to even figuring out where their parents are stuck in different states and what is happening, I think that caused a lot of anxiety among the girls. And these girls were staying in their neighborhood with their support of relatives or other family members, and they were given food only once in a day, only after finishing the household chores of that particular family. So the situation was quite tragic, and the girls and they did not have anyone to whom they could speak about it till the voice team had reached out to them. When it comes to education, we could see that most of them have expressed that I may not come back to school again because my family is already struggling, there is no income, and if I'm not going to eat food today, you're talking about education, which is next the future. And I don't think it's important for my girl to go to the school anymore. It's important for me that she help brings in money for the family to survive. And we could though they did not say that I am dropping out of the school right now, but they said there is a lot of pressure on them, and to leave to quit school and stay back at home to support the family. And there have been incidences cited by the girls to say I'm getting engaged during these summer holidays because now my parents see that I'm being a burden in the family. Some of it did not come through directly through the girls because they were constantly being monitored by their family members, and these girls did not have much access or space where they could go out and speak the issues that they were facing. Even about violence, when we spoke to them, they said that we there is violence is happening in the communities, and it has become even more even more evident, and we are not able to do it. And they've started to accept violence as violence is okay, which is not really okay, because this is the mindset that they are going to go with, assuming that it's okay to be beaten up by somebody. And we could and one of the instances that caught while we were discussing was, what do I do next? And one of our girls, we have changed the name here due to confidentiality issues, but the larger questions that most of our girls had: will I be ever be able to come back to school again? What is going to happen to my parents? Will the debts of my family be cleared, or am I going to only support my parents at back at home? You told us that we can dream. There is no limit to any dream. Now what is happening to our dreams and aspirations? What will it happen, and how can I achieve them? Because if I'm not going to go to school again, what will happen to all of that I thought that I would be able to break the economic and gender inequality in my community? So these were so this one particular girl had a opportunity to take her friend's phone and called us, and she said, I have two brothers and I'm the only daughter, and now my parents are asking me to get married. So now you please help me. Either you help me by talking to my parents about it, or you bring me back to the school, or you talk to the government and you ensure schools are reopening. So this was a very grave situation that we had come up. Even the boys, the girls' parents, when we spoke to them, they did say they did tell us that when we do not have 2 meals a day, you're expecting to send my daughter to the school. I would really love to, but I don't have a choice. So after the after the intervention of Voice for Girls through the support, and then we had to talk to the governments to say, this is not okay, and then support them, provide them with relief work. The girl is still not married, but we do not know how long this is going to continue. And given sexual reproductive health, like Michelle had also mentioned, there has been a lack of access to sanitary napkin, and this percentage was quite high because they had to travel to the main towns to get access to the sanitary products. And due to the lockdown restrictions that have been imposed in India in various parts of the states, we could see that the girls are not able to travel and access these. So this has resulted in them going back to using the same old cloth or waste products that are there at home, which is also affecting their sexual and reproductive health. And they are unable to go and access the health services because the priority is now on the COVID cases that were going on. So there was a lot of emotional stress on the girls, and we could see that they felt that they needed a space where they could express their concerns and feelings. And moreover on that, there were restrictions not to go out of the house, to meet friends or allow anybody inside due to the pandemic. And this is and when we were talking at large, we were only talking about adolescent girls, but we would also say that even adolescent boys are also at a higher risk of dropping out, because these boys have said that this specifically the case study where Voice for Girls personally went to he called us on a landline and said, you know, we do not have food to eat completely, we have been starving and we need help. And that's when Voice for Girls reached out to them, and through the government again, and supported them by providing essential products that was required. But still, we know that this relief work wouldn't be sufficient, because the father has lost his job, and do not know when he's going to get back to work again. And there are 3 children, and mother is the one who's being burdened again, because now she has lost a job even as a household maid. So these were the circumstances, and even the adolescent boys were also the mental condition of the adolescent boys was also at a high risk, is what we realized during this campaign. um, Given all of these challenges that we had, we know that there were, only 50% of them had access to mobile phones, and some of them didn't even have. So what do we do? How do we go forward? Because these girls and boys definitely need us, and they need us to they need support where they feel that this is a safe space where I can express, and nobody is going to judge me for it. And because we were able to reach out to these girls and boys at a right point of time, maybe we could support as many girls and boys as well. But saying that, it's really unfortunate that we lost around more than 10 to 12 adolescents, because they did commit suicide for various reasons. And we were not able to reach out to them because there was no mobile phone access to them at all, and we got to know only through their friends that this is what had happened. So we feel that yes, the situation is quite uncertain. There are many uncertainties around us, and this pandemic has upended our lives. But there is a need that we reach out to these communities, and and the work that we did through this campaign has set us forth to say that yes, online interaction is possible. Maybe we are not able to reach out to 1 lakh adolescent girls, but we are still able to reach out to 50,000 adolescent girls, and have a conversation with them to give them that space to say that there is an organization, there are people who are doing relief work as well. And we also learned that hybrid learning model is also possible, because till then we believe that only physical camps can provide that space. But given that physical camps plus, we would also love to go ahead with online till this pandemic situation eases out a bit, and then do further one-on-one sort of interactions once they are back to the schools. And we also realize the need that the government should bring in the students, and for which I think it would take another 4 to 5 months for these government departments also to bring back the girls and boys to the schools. So but involving these boys in the conversation also has been strikingly very interesting, because now they are able to observe what is happening around them within their household, and they are having conversations with their mother and father about importance of educating this girl, or sending his sister, or giving her that space to make a decision. So this has been the learnings of Voice for Girls through this pandemic. Through the campaigns that we have organized, we felt that there is a possibility for us to do online sessions and reach out to these girls. What we want the governments to do certainly is that support the girls and young women by providing allocating funds. When I say funds, specifically, say for example, if it's for women, there should be more funds going towards shelter homes where they are able to support the women who are facing domestic violence, and for young girls where they are not able to where there is a lot of pressure for them to drop out of the school, take up child labor work. So all of this, the government, if it is able to allot resources to curb it, at this point of time, there are higher chances that we bring back the girls to the schools again, and not letting them drop out and getting caught in the cycles of poverty. And given the challenge that the teachers are also not equipped to work with online platforms, and they do not have they are not able to do it, we would also want the governments to work with teachers and parents where they are able to support them more, and if possible try and do a WhatsApp call, or maybe upload resources where they can download, or maybe train the girl who's available in the community, and through that girl reach out to the other girls who do not have access to technology at all. And definitely we want the governments to support the NGOs who can do relief work for these adolescent girls. When we say relief work, it is not only in terms of essential products, because it is also very essential that we support them, we provide them psychosocial support. And yes, there is always an opportunity for all of us to act, and this is the time that you all youngsters can act on it and help this pandemic, that has set back the girls from not coming to school, or facing violence. We can still bring them back to the schools. We can still support them by preventing violence at homes, and also not forcing her to get married. Michelle, do you want to add to this?
Yes, I think we have this here because Shira and Girl Up were saying, let's sort of think at the end as we're speaking of what we can do, as individuals or as groups. And I gave this a little bit of thought. And for me, it's about participating, taking part, doing things literally like this webinar, and being involved with things that are available to you, like Girl Up societies. Keeping informed. So as I was saying, there's this various research. I'm happy to share some links to that. I think the Feminism in India website is actually a really useful source of information. It's really interesting. So it's about keeping informed. It's about you're doing this already because you're part of this webinar, but as well as thinking about how are these things impacting you in your country, what's happening elsewhere around the world, and what sources are you using to find out about that. There are other more sort of concrete practical things you can do. That's volunteering your skills, volunteering your time, and if you're in a position to, you might want to consider donating or fundraising, and I've put some links in the presentation to some more information on those, and you're welcome to get in touch with me afterwards if you'd like more information on anything at all to do with that.
Thank you, thank you, Michelle.
May I add a point which I think is interesting, and I would be interested to hear Vanita's comment on it. It has always seemed to me that the work of voice in passing on the message about girls being in education and advocating for the position of girls, the stories that I have heard from Voice have often been about how one girl goes to hear the Voice message and spreads it widely amongst their friends, their sisters, their family. So the message gets out very much more broadly and impacts on more than just the girl who has been to the Voice camp. I would be interested in Vanita's comments about whether it's possible that while these girls that you're talking to in the blended program, will they pass the message on to others in their village, and will that actually have almost a wider impact because the girls are not at school, so that if you speak to one person, many more get the message?
Thank you, Sheila, for bringing this up. I think what is happening, the model that Voice works with is that we believe in the power of these girls. And once we give them the critical knowledge and information, what we do is we also train them on leadership and how they can become leaders in their own communities and share the information with the other peers. And we also handhold them by giving them enough resources, posters, and materials where they are able to do the outreach. And during this pandemic, we do realize that we cannot bring in huge groups together, but through this Avas campaign, when we were talking to them about COVID and how do they maintain physical distancing, wear the mask and do hand washing, the girls and boys started making videos of their own and started sharing it in their own circles. And they started bringing in their family members or in the neighborhood, 2 to 3 families, where they maintain physical distance, but they're still able to show them how do you do hand washing and why it is important that you hand wash with the soap and not just with water and then you keep moving. So I think that sort of change we could definitely see, and there is a ripple effect in the community. And we through this through online sessions as well, we are encouraging the adolescent girls and boys to go and talk it out to their peers in their neighborhood itself, even if it is to 5 or 6 girls. And interestingly, these girls have also come up with something called learning centers in their villages, which is not there across all the villages, but in some of the villages, where the older adolescents have taken up initiative to train the younger adolescents or the younger children in the community. So they have started teaching them math, science, and then and also giving them information about COVID and also physical distancing and about the skills that they're learning through Voice for Girls. So definitely the ripple effect is possible in the communities, and we do believe in it.
Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Vanita, for that wonderful presentation. I mean, so comprehensive, so informative. I've learned a ton. So the chat has been, been very active, but I just want to, open it up to the floor here. If anyone who's been writing in the chat wants to unmute themselves, ask a question, share their experience. If not, then I can go and ask some questions that are in the chat. Okay, no problem. So Chef Ali had a question about 15 minutes ago that she goes, the girls are pushed into sexual practices or rather just sold to someone in rural areas during these times in order for the girl's family to survive. The government definitely states laws and regulations, but are they being implemented during COVID-19? How has implementation changed?
As rightly pointed out, there have been practices where women are or younger girls are being pushed into sexual practices or being sold off. But being, I would say, in the state of Telangana, there as soon as the information has come to the notice of the police department, they have taken action on it, and they're quite taking it up very seriously as well. Whereas in other states, through the work of other NGOs, we've got to hear that the police has certainly been a little lag in the taking action because of the work they've been involved due to the COVID and tracing of cases and bringing them up. But as she was saying, more number of cases have been reported on girls being sold off. But yes, when it comes to the notice of the police, they are able to take action and uh, uh, provide them with send these girls to the shelter homes if required.
Another question from Sarah has to do with menstrual health. Sarah goes, another response that had widely attracted the population's attention is a benchmark difference in the importance of sanitary pads and masks. A lot of news articles have put forward the necessity for both during COVID-19, but on one hand, the masks are being distributed widely, some free, some not. Why aren't menstrual pads considered a necessity when it also targets some serious hygiene and health issues?
It's quite unfortunate that that they are not able to understand that access to sanitary pad is essential and it is not a luxury to have. But it's been in India specifically, the access, I would say, around 84% of women did not have access to these sanitary pads during the COVID pandemic lockdown restrictions that came up. And the NGOs had to push it through to say that, this is an essential product and we need to make it accessible. But this has gone into the only even within many of the NGOs that are doing relief work, unfortunately have included the household essentials and sanitary one or two was made mandatory, but otherwise they still don't see access to sanitary product is as an essential. But it does have it really calls for the attention that these girls are having health issues because of lack of access to these resources. And it's a high time that we realize that it is having impact on their reproductive health as well.
Just a question that I've been wondering. So, I mean, in the States, we talk a lot about the digital divide, about, the gap that exists between those who not only have a cell phone, but also have internet capabilities to be able to use that phone. So I was just wondering, what the digital divide looks like for the girls and boys that voice serves. How has that impacted, I mean, even the responses, like the conversations that you're even able to have with girls, they're already have, if it's through a cell phone, they already, have a certain level of privilege that other girls don't have. So what does the digital divide look like? And how have you been able to contact and engage with girls and boys who don't have phones?
So I would say this has been one of the challenges. Of the, say, 100% of population, 80% would have access to mobile phones, but having an Android phone might not be a possible, which will makes it a little difficult. But 80% to 90% of this population have a very basic phone where we can reach out to them and seek information for. So I think that was possible through one-on-one phone calls. But saying that, I would like to add that it is extremely a challenge to reach out to girls, because often there are restrictions. Why you being a girl, who's this calling you, why are they calling you? I really want to know, is she a woman or a man? I know this must be your boyfriend who's trying to reach through you through somebody else. I think that sort of restrictions on girls and younger women are quite higher than boys, and reaching out to boys would be much easier, and talking to them and helping them understand, there is going to be a session, why don't you be part of it? And another challenge that poses voice is also that there is only one phone in the family, and if there are two children, then it becomes even more challenging, because already there is one child who's using the mobile phone to access materials or resources, and then there becomes a fight between the both about who has to access this. And most often the privilege again goes to boys and not to girls. And saying that, given these challenges, I think that one thing that boys had been striving to do is reach out to parents as well. And during this COVID pandemic, we have reached out to the parents to say it is important that instead of not engaging your child at all, that she engages with online sessions where she's able to learn, where she's able to contribute. It would ease out a bit. And we have been quite successful in convincing the parents to give their mobile phones to their daughters for those 2 hours of time, for the 10 days. So for the those 10 days, for those 2 hours, the phone is available with the girl. But again, saying that this accessibility is again with 60% of the girls, whereas the 40% are still left out. It's always challenging to decide, should I reach out to this 60%? Am I creating more gap? Because it's really unfair why those 40% are not being able to come for these online sessions just because they don't have a mobile phone. So I know this is there are a lot of ethical issues that would come into it, but what we believe in is, if I am able to reach out to the 60% of girls, through this 60% I will still be able to reach out to the other girls who do not have access to information at all. So the digital divide between boys and girls is quite high, and though it is challenging, we believe that we will be able to reach out.
Wow. I mean, you guys are doing incredible work. Just want to once again say that this is a time where, if you'd like to unmute yourself, share your experience, and ask any questions, that this is a time to do so. I'll give another minute to just let anyone.
Should I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Vanita ma'am. I was listening to you all around, you're going to rural areas, like talking them on mobile phones, reaching them out. One thing I want to ask, I already asked in chat too, that many girls, you're talking about mental health, addressing mental health. Many girls got their first period. And first of all, period is a huge change in the body. And second of all, the taboo surrounding around this menstrual cycle of ours. Now, most of the men of the family heads are already in house. So how did you help girl understand that it's gonna be okay and remove that taboo from their mind? What will my father think? What will my brother think? How did you challenge this one?
Thank you, Arushi, for bringing this up. Like I was telling you that we have an Her Voice module wherein we do physical camps, and we are adapting this content for an online platform, and one of the topics that we deal with is menstruation, puberty, and menstruation. So we talk to them about, what are the physical changes that are happening to you, what are the social expectations that happens to you during this adolescence, and how do you cope with it. And we also talk to them about what is this period cycle, how do you track, and why should you be ashamed about talking to your family members about it? Is it a big taboo? Is it wrong to bring it up in the conversations within your family as well? But saying that, Arushi, given this is an online platform, again, I would like to say that yes, in the physical camps, for sure, we were able to break the taboo to say that the girls have realized that this is natural, this is normal, and this happens to everybody. And given this online platform and restrictions of being monitored by the parents and everybody, though we are telling them that this is natural and normal, and if you have anything you need to come back, they would slowly text us and ask, okay, this is what happened, is it okay? So I think we are able to talk to these girls about the changes that are happening and also the taboos around them. Don't touch the plants, or don't touch the pickles, don't enter the kitchen room. Is this okay? And why do you think, when it is natural biological process, why do you think it's wrong to do it? And we are helping them think, and considering this is the first phase, what happens to them is we don't tell them do this, do that. It's a discovery way of learning. So we tell them, please think if this is all right, and you come back to us if you think it is wrong, and if you think wrong, why do you think it is wrong? So this has given them a more way of in a way to understand things much better and take it forward within their household level, let's say. And there are incidences where the girls have spoken to the mothers about using sanitary pads, why they need to move from cloth pad to sanitary pad, and why it is hygienic. And some of the girls have shared stories where they have changed the behavior of the mothers as well. And interestingly, I would like to also highlight that we also do work with adolescent boys, where we also talk to them about not just the changes that are happening to them, but also what are the changes that will happen to girls as well. And we talk to them about menstrual health and hygiene as well. And one of our campers, one of the boys, has gone and spoken about it to his mother, where it is considered to be a huge taboo. And this boy, when he went and spoke to his mother, there was mother was taken back a bit, and then she was like, why you talking about it, you're not supposed to. Then he said, no, I know about it, I have learned it. And I think you need to shift to the sanitary pad, it will have better hygienic conditions, and I'm willing to support you whenever you're unwell, though you don't tell me. Now I realize that you have your periods every month. So that's a change or impact, I would say, we are able to create, whether it's on an online platform or a physical camp. I
Well,
hope I answered your question.
like, I really appreciated the stories you're bringing up. Really hopes for the positive one. And one thing I would like to tell you that please socialize more. I really don't know about your organization before I came to this Zoom meeting. But yeah,
Okay.
they're doing such a great work. I want you to reach more states and tell me if I can help you in any way.
Thank you, Arushi. We'll keep this in mind and we'll stay in touch. Thank you.
Thank
Going off of that, we have a message from Hannah. Hello, such a fab talk. Thank you. Well, thank you for being here. We're so happy to see you again. Hannah goes, I've been volunteering over the last 3 months teaching English to 4 women in India via Skype. The women's center they normally go to is closed due to COVID. Is there opportunities to get involved in similar teaching with girls?
Right now at Voice, I think we are trying to hire resources within Hyderabad, because considering we are all in this virtual world trying to fix things around, we are looking for somebody who can help us volunteer within Hyderabad. But saying that, we would love to have someone who can help us with content, or creating posters for these adolescent girls. So please write to us at voice@voiceforgirls.org, and then we'll see how we could, depending on the skills and your areas of interest, we could see how we could work together.
Thank you.
Another question from Sarah. Mostly it's like adolescents are more open towards talking and interacting with others, even elders, on these topics. But the latter, the elders, they're still holding back their voices and adhering to their own limited education on such topics back in their day. So how does one bridge the generational gap, given that elders have such a huge impact and influence in Indian society?
Uh, we would say that working with younger minds is much easier, and change is possible more through these younger minds than working with older population. It is not that change is not possible with these populations, but the because they come with certain mindsets, certain cultural taboos they hold, and certain restrictions that they have for themselves, will not keep it open for a learning. But when it comes from their own child, saying that, do you think this is right? My friend, she's just 10 years like me, and she's getting married. Is this okay? Do you think this is okay? You are not doing anything to support. This is not okay. So we believe that when we are able to change the younger minds, these people are able to better negotiate for themselves and their peers, instead of we going and talking and trying to change them. If it comes from their own communities, the change is much more bigger, and we could see that changes are happening even with older people, where they have come out to say, after my daughter spoke to me about it, I never thought about it like this. So when she's coming and talking to me about it, I feel very proud that I did not think the way that she was thinking, and this has changed the way I was thinking so far. So I think working with younger minds, we see there is more hope, more possibility of change, and through the younger minds we would love to bring change in the older people.
So can I just add to that as well, something that Sheila and I were struck by when we were in India in January this year, as well as with girls and with boys also, particularly when we met some of the boys and we looked at those boys. I look at them and can see the fathers and the husbands that they are going to become, and they are going to be different husbands and fathers from the intervention they've had from Voice, the same as the girls will be different and more informed, and will be different types of mothers and different types of women living lives closer to the lives that they want to live. But I think that's part of, like we talk about in this country about early intervention, and that's what Vanita's talking about, I think. But yeah, it's just it's amazing when you see it in IRL, in real life, as it were.
Vanita, I was wondering if you could speak more to the forced marriages and what forced marriages looked like before COVID-19, and then how COVID-19 has impacted.
Prior to COVID-19, there has been the child marriage was, the rates of child marriage was quite high in India, and specifically in Telangana, it stands eighth state to have high number of child marriages. And when we say high child marriage, it's below the age of 18 years in India, and the girls are often, they go home during holidays and they don't never return back to the school. And given this situation, the girls were forced to say, get married, or you are not, I'm not going to send you to the school at all, you please get married to this guy. And they show him the guy. So they, I think there was a these girls started slowly vanishing from these schools, and being part of the household core work and forming their own families. That's how the situation was before COVID. But I would say we started progressing in a way. We were able to tackle child marriages. There have been helpline numbers that have been set up, 1098, where they were receiving calls and they were acting on it. And there were a lot of organizations which were also being part of rescuing girls from getting married at a very early age. But during this COVID pandemic, because now the girls have nowhere to go and are at home, the parents have started seeing them as a more of a burden to provide 3 square meals a day, and also supporting them, and giving them necessary essentials at home. So they are forcing these girls to say, either you come to me with the farm work, which will again fall under the Child Labor Act of India, or you get married to this guy and go away, and you make your, and then you make your decisions. And the decisions around whether it is around marriage, fertility, or having a child, everything around this girl is not made by her at all. It's often made by her elders in the family, or it's mostly the parents in the family. And then after getting married, it is the husband or the in-laws who make decisions for her. So there is no agency for her at home. And this COVID pandemic has now ensured, because these girls are at home and are available, parents are just thinking, okay, I'll just get her married and then I'm done with my work. So I think more number of child marriages are happening, but still we are not able to trace them out, because the number of cases that are being registered even within the child helpline have gone up. And we still do not know in the rural parts where there is no access to mobile phones, or they do not know the helpline numbers, how they're trying to reach out to us. So I think the worst is yet to come, where we will be seeing one of the huge impacts of this child marriage, a huge impact of this COVID on the adolescent girls, where they are, once they come back to the schools, they are going to share with us how it has affected them more badly.
Can I just follow up on that and ask a bit about the schools, the position of the schools at the moment? We all know that that education is the most important thing, and Voice pushes the impact of education and staying at school. Have the educational authorities in India played any part in what's happening to girls, particularly girls in the villages and the communities at the moment? I know in the past you've had very substantial support from some parts of the educational authorities who really respect the work that you're doing. I'm just wondering if they're doing anything at the moment.
At the moment, they have imposed a lot of restrictions to get into their office. Initially, we used to get crash saying that, we need to get this work done. Now there have been more restrictions in terms of reaching out to those government officials as such, because of the pandemic. But however, saying that, there are government officials like Dr. R.S. Praveen Kumar, whom you had also met, has been quite supportive in providing us the database of the adolescent girls and boys. And we did reach out to him seeking the support that we want to reach out, but we do not have we have mobile numbers of only few of the students. So he was very forthcoming, and he did share the database with us. And similarly with the another government department as well, the secretary has been the bureaucrat has been quite supportive, because they have tried reaching their students through the online platforms, and they have not been successful in a way. Not more than 20% of the boys or girls have responded to the school authorities. So, and there is a huge debate about, should you do online sessions for these girls where they don't have even mobile phones, and then pressurizing the parents to buy mobile phones. And some of the cases have been reported where the children committed suicide because they were not able to to afford mobile phones and or attend these classes. So because considering all of these facts that were going around, I think the department is being quite pushing the government to say there is a need that we bring back at least 50% of the adolescent girls or boys back to the residential schools, where we are able to support them more by providing food, required educational materials that are required for them. So the idea is that they are pushing the governments or advocating to say that, you know, please bring them back to the government residential schools. And on the other hand, what they have also started doing is the learning circles that I was talking about, where they have where they are encouraging the students in their older students in the community to bring in at least 4 or 5 girls or boys who are in the from the same community and teach them math, social, science, whatever the older student is comfortable with. So I would say, in terms of residential school students, there has been quite a lot of support and advocacy that's being done by the government departments as well, and they're quite keen about how Voice for Girls is going to implement the online sessions, and then take feedback and, you know, see if they can also incorporate their subjects along with it. But I think mostly they're very excited to see and understand from our learnings.
Riti followed up with that and said even if they are conducting online sessions, the percentage of students attending is about 30 to 40%. Vanita, I got a question privately. I was wondering if you could speak more to the impact of children bringing their learning home to their parents and about the influence that has.
Um, is it through general physical camps or the online sessions that you're asking, Shira? In general, okay.
Yeah, it was kind of a more general question, however you want to answer.
I would say there have been a lot of case studies that have been shared, incidences being shared by the adolescent girls and boys, how they've been able to negotiate within their families about, them staying back at school itself. So there is a girl from a government residential school, where when she was in her class 8, she did come for a voice camp, and she learned that, you know, getting married before the age of 18 is illegal, and she can seek support of the police if required. And when she was in class 9, her parents forced her to get married to a man who was 30-year-old. And she reached out, because we usually do not encourage giving our phone numbers, because we do not do one-on-one counseling as such. We prefer giving government helpline numbers or the departments where they can reach out to. But this particular incident, this girl looked up on us on the website, and then she called us on our landline and said, Akka, I'm getting sister, I'm getting married, I need help, please do something about it. And then we luckily she was in a very closer to Hyderabad, so the voice team reached out to her parents to talk. And the girl herself said, okay, you want me to get married, you know what is going to happen, you are not willing to listen to me, that's the reason I had to call Voice for Girls. And then she started negotiating in front of us, saying that, you will get me married now, then what am I going to do, because after this I'm not going to study, school for sure is not going to happen, I've learned that there are health implications, then I will also end up doing daily work like you. So you want your daughter to also see on the same lines. And then parents were quiet for a second, and then voice team also did not say anything. And then later the girl started to share her incidences, how the girls who earlier were part of the voice camp, are now in the college, and now they will get a more prospective job, and they'll be able to support parents more economically. I think the girls are able to started to negotiate, and that's how she could stop her own child marriage. So her own marriage she stopped, and then she went ahead, and she's pursuing her graduation now. And she comes back to Voice to work as one of the counselors, wherein she trains the girls on the Her Voice module that we have. So she's coming back to work with us. And this is just one case, but there are many other incidences where the girls who were our campers from the government school, residential schools, are now coming back to say, I would like to share my experience with these girls and become role models. So they are becoming the role models in their own communities by sharing the challenges they had, how they are able to negotiate with their parents and fight it. And then even there have been incidences where the girls have been thrashed for talking against the norms of the society. So I think but that they did not give it up just because they were beaten up by their own family members or their extended family members. They stood up to say, this is my right and I completely deserve this. And this has been there has been an enormous change that we have seen, that the dropout rates, at least the girls with whom we have been tracking for the past 2 to 3 years, we have seen that more than 80% of the girls are in their graduation now and have not stopped their education.
Mm. Kind of switching gears a little bit, Vanita, I was wondering if you could talk about the intersection of, Michelle had brought this up earlier, the intersection of the caste system and gender equality, talking about Dalit feminism and kind of where, questioning our gender roles and questioning the class roles kind of intersect and fit together.
Um, Shira, caste plays a bigger role in India, I would say. But from my previous experiences working with them, there are different gender roles that would also come up. But considering at Voice for Girls, we work with adolescents who are in the schools. And this school is specifically for the girls and boys who belong to the most backward communities, say scheduled tribes or scheduled castes. So these people, these boys and girls are from the same community, studying in the same school. So within the school as such, you will not be able to see the influence of the caste on the gender, or on the roles that they play, or there is no discrimination as such that you will be able to see in the schools per se. But yes, when you go to the communities, that makes a huge impact. But I from Voices experience, we haven't gone to the communities as such to work on that.
I was wondering if the way that Voice for Girls would present and discuss gender issues would be different based on the different classes and different castes.
The way our most of our work is with the marginalized communities, where most of them belong to the below poverty line. And if you when we are talking to them about gender norms, yes, most of it that is relevant to the communities that they come from, and so that they are able to understand and relate to very specific examples that we are giving. When it comes, and as you say for instance, domestic violence, it is there across, whether irrespective of which class they belong to, there is domestic violence happening in the families. But because our work is with these marginalized girls, we bring in relevant examples from their own communities to tell them, this is this is what is happening, and you need to understand and cope with it, or you need to become more resilient towards it.
Mm, thank you. Another question I've just received is about honor killings and legislative and social factors which protect the perpetrators of the crime.
Sorry, can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, it's just
On the honor
individual
killing?
just wants you to talk more about honor killings and legislative and social factors which protect the perpetrators of the crime.
Honor killings, I would say, at least because, like I told you, we do not go into the communities. Our work is at the school level. Honor killings in as such has not come to our notice, but in India there are honor killings happening in the name of caste, class, and it is across. I mean, whether it is you're from urban or from a rural background, there are a lot of honor killings that gets reported. And the main reason why it does not come to the limelight is because until and unless the media reports it, there is no way that the issue is highlighted by the communities itself, because all the communities within themselves believe that this this was supposed to happen. This was not supposed to happen. She's not supposed to get married to somebody who's from the other caste. This is not okay. And if somebody has killed her, yes, it was for their own family good. So they are not going to talk about it if it is from their own communities. Only cases that are being highlighted by the media, action is being taken, cases have been filed, and yes, further legal proceedings go as per the acts or the norms. But there are many honor killings that happen, and just they say it is suicide that the child has that the young women has committed. So it's quite complicated, I would say, when it comes to caste. Honor killings in the name of caste or class becomes a little complicated to understand in the Indian context.
Wow. Well, thank you for that, and thank you for beginning to decomplexify it for all of us listening here. I just wanted to reiterate that this is an open space, so if anyone has any other questions or wants to share their experience, they can do so through the chat or by just unmuting themselves and asking. And Vanita, while we're waiting, I mean, I know you spoke about this kind of in your presentation, but I mean, I always like to kind of end these conversations on more of an outward looking perspective. So like what's next, and what can we do as individuals sitting here, more than just participating? What can we do in our communities? What can we do to help those who are, oceans away?
Like Michelle has mentioned that there are, the instances that I did share were from India, and what each one of us can do is, keep us informed about what's going around us, and also if you can volunteer time and your skill, and depending on your interest, we are looking forward to having younger people like you and the others who are there in the forum. And we are also looking forward for a support where we are able to reach out to more girls, so which means we certainly need funders like Scottish Love in Action, who trusts and believes in our vision and mission, and have been supporting us in this, that sessions can be possible online, support is possible. If we have more funds, we'll be able to reach out to more girls and boys, because we know that the online platforms are little quite expensive, and the girls and the number of resources that we would require to reach out to these adolescents would also increase, because now it is not just we recruiting some young women for the program and then they going and teaching the girls. It's about bringing in the adolescent girls itself into the program. So there's a lot of mobilization work that's being done by Voice for Girls. So we would love if any sort of fundraising support or donation that is possible, and definitely we would encourage people to do volunteering with us in support in creating online platforms or create content that can be used, which will become online friendly for the adolescent girls and boys, and share your experiences too.
Well, thank you so much for that. I just want to end this off from a comment from Zed here. He goes, I'm from Pakistan, and it's really heartwarming to see powerful women in India as well fighting against social, religious, and cultural biases. More power to you.
Thank you.
I mean, I think that really sums it up in the best way. I mean, we are so grateful to be able to listen to the incredible work that, you've been doing and Voice for Girls have been doing. I mean, it's so impactful, and we can't wait to see the difference that it will make. And, we're seeing it now, and it's been incredible to hear about it.
Thank you, Shira. I think thank you for hosting this and coordinating this webinar. And I would like to thank both Michelle and Sheila, without which, without these two wonderful women, this wouldn't have been possible. And when we shared this idea about the Avas campaign, I think Scottish Love in Action has supported us in reaching out to many more adolescents. And they have been our tremendous support for the past 4 years. So thank you so much for being there. And I know this journey would continue for long.
It's our pleasure.
Yes, and just to let our attendees know, we have one more session this week. It's tomorrow, and we will be discussing COVID-19's impact in Israel. So that will be sure to be another complex and complicated discussion. So join us for that tomorrow at 7 a.m. EST. I want to thank Benita, Michelle, Sheila. You are incredible. I want to thank our translator, Violetta. I want to thank Marina from Girl Up, who's been helping me coordinate all of this. Just one last question, because this is a good one, from Sunbal Lashari. She goes, how as individuals can we promote and normalize the concept of puberty in our own community? Now that's
I think the fact that we talking to the girls, adolescent girls and boys about the changes that are happening to them, and there is no shying away from it. When you as a elder sibling in the family, or as a parent in the family, are going to bring it up with your children or siblings, they are going to get quite open to say, this is okay, this is normal, we can talk about it. Quite often when if you look at menstrual health, or pubertal changes that are happening to girl, 70% of the girls do not know till they get their first periods that they're going to even have periods. So that's the huge gap. Till I got my first period, I never knew that there is something called period, or this is what is going to happen to you. I think having those conversations with girls and making normalizing it to say it is okay. Everybody goes through this physical and emotional changes, and letting them know in advance, this is what will happen to you. I think will keep them informed and more prepared. I remember one of our campers who shared with us that when she was in class 8, when she came for the menstrual health session, she did not hit her puberty, and she was all looking and she was thinking, what are these women discussing and why are they doing it? And when the same girl, she comes back again for the Disha camp, and she by then she had her first period, and then she said, Akka, I got my first period. Akka means sister. So she said, I got my first period. I said, oh okay. How did you feel? Then she said, I did not cry at all. My mother was shocked, why am I not crying? Then I said, this is natural and normal, this is what I learned in the voice class. So equipping girls with that information and that confidence to say, I'm not bleeding, I'm not going to die now. So I think that sort of keeping them aware about what's happening with them will, and normalizing it in the conversations that we have at home itself to begin with, would certainly normalize all of these conversations around puberty, menstruation, or sexual reproductive health.
Sorry, just one final comment from me. I just want to say as well, in terms of what we can do, I'm the mother of a son, and it's extremely important that mothers and sisters speak to boys and sons about these things as well, from as young an age as the girls, and that they're on the same page, so that it's natural, it's not a big deal, it's just part of life.
Right.
wow. Thank you. Thank you all so much. I think we'll end it here. Thank you all again, and we look forward to speaking with you all soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.